Thank you for joining us today for enhancing and empowering conversations for positive change. We have been doing this webinar series now for a number of years since the COVID, 4 years. Wow. We're always excited to bring great information and to share great information with you guys. And this is no different. Today is going to be phenomenal. We can go to the next slide, Lori, please. Some of you guys may or may not know that these are some of the ways that we like to engage at Be Strong Families. For the webinar specifically, this is not a meeting. So if you're wondering why your camera isn't on, for those of you guys who are new, it's a Zoom webinar, so you're muted. And when you're ready to speak, just raise your hand. We'll ask you to unmute yourself. And we'll usually do that during the Q&A, okay? And then feel free to type your comments in the group chat and make sure it's going to everyone. If you don't make sure it's going to everyone, it's just going to come to the host and the panelists, okay? And also, my goodness, guys, you guys are showing up and showing out today. We have over 400 people scheduled or registered for today's webinar. Okay? Wow. So be patient with us today while we're maneuvering, and we're not going to be able to get to all of the questions that we usually take some questions. We'll have a few here and there in the chat or in that Q&A section. So you can put your information or your questions there, okay? And we're going to try and get a few questions, but not a lot. So please be patient with us and understand. Thank you in advance. All right, next slide, Lori. So these are our agreements at Be Strong Families. It's important for us that we create a space that people can be comfortable in. And so the way that we do that is we have these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful agreements. And they are to speak from your own experience and use I statements, which means as you're sharing or you're putting stuff in the chat, everybody may not feel the same way that you feel or have the same concerns that you have. So speak from I, okay? And not like talking about other people. Focus on the me and not the we. And then follow the golden rule. So we ask people, this sort of wraps up all of our parent cafe agreements. This sort of wraps up all of our parent cafe agreements where we don't give advice and we're not judging people and all that great stuff. So treat people the way you want to be treated. And then full presence. Man, today's webinar, like our other webinars, are going to be off the chain. So we really, really, really want to encourage you to be fully present. You could be working on, some work stuff, blah, 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 blah. The only thing you should be doing here is eating lunch and being present so that you don't miss anything. Okay. And then if you need a minute, take a minute. Sometimes whatever the topic may be a little close to your heart, might cause you to feel a little bit. If you need to step away and come on back. Sounds good? If that sounds good and you agree with the agreements, I need you to put that in the chat for me. We agree to, yes, I agree. Just say, yes, I agree. Just fill up the chat with I agree so that we can feel comfortable moving forward. Yes, look at that. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. That really warms my heart better than oatmeal to see that people are wanting to keep this space safe so that we can have this really, really great conversation today. Okay. All right, Lori, I think it's safe to go. So today, guys, we're talking about navigating immigration resources with my friend and partner, Maria-Elena Agrela. Today, we have been working together. I'm saying today, but we have been working together for now, maybe about 2 years. We met each other. She became a friend of Be Strong Families and vice versa because of a friend that we have in common, Pam Heron, one of our parent leaders, is a part of Maria-Elena's network, West 40, and she'll talk about a little bit about that. But and Pam made this introduction so that we could do cafes with West 40 and their partners. And we have become She is a fantastic partner. She also just partnered with us recently for Healing Illinois, where we met with her network and did a series of 3 cafes and then invited them to be a part of our parent cafe training recently. And so she is a wonderful partner, wonderful person. I absolutely love you see her. You see her. She is her outfit today, her whole vibe is giving everything it's supposed to give. So yes, let me give an official bio, okay? This is Maria-Elena Agrela, Director of Community Relations with West 40. And she's the Director of Community Relations for West 40. She's a proud first generation Mexican Portuguese American who holds 2 masters, one in school counseling and the second in principal leadership slash school administration, including a Director of Special Education Endorsement. We are super excited to have Maria Elena with us today. Look at me, about to forget to introduce myself. I am your host for today. I'm Sarita Sashton, the Director of Engagement and Strategic Relationships here at Be Strong Families. I'm super excited to hold today's conversation. I'm super excited to have her in the building, in the Zoom, and I'm glad that all of you guys to join us to get this great information for your families. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Maria. It's all yours.
Okay, hello everyone. I am going to share my screen. And we are going to, there's a poll that just went out. If you could fill that out, I'd just like to know everyone's knowledge. Like, how much do you know about immigration issues happening right now on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being you could do this presentation and I should sit down, or 1 is you hardly know what's going on. So if you could answer that, that'd be great. Let's see if I could share my screen. There we go. Okay. So we are going to start here, but hold on. I'm going to get the link really quick. Copy the link. I'm going to put the link. Oh, thank you, Lori, for putting that link in the chat. I'm used to doing everything on my own. You could tell. So this is the link that just went into the chat. This is where all the resources are. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, most of my resources are Illinois based, right? So when you go under resources galore, a lot of those are, okay, we have good knowledge in the room. Thank you. But a lot of this is also universal. So there are I added a section under resources galore. We'll go there. So there's Chicagoland resources. And then I also added Illinois statewide resources. And then there's national resources. And I do have some resources by state, not a ton. But if you want to get to resources in your area, you could click on this nationwide directory. So I'm going to show you really quick. And you would put in your zip code and see what's near you. So hopefully everyone could find immigration resources near them. This guide has a number of things happening, right? We have the Know Your Rights. Everything is printable. Let's go back up there. So you could click on these if you want to hand out these cards. There's a number of cards you could hang out. There's door hangers you could give out. There's information on how to make a plan, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I just want everybody to see where this information is housed. Everything is public knowledge, right? So as long as you have that link, you'll have access to everything here. And mind you, there are some things that, again, specific to Illinois, but a lot of this stuff is universal. Also, my presentation is here. So we're going to jump right into it. It's loading. There we go. So navigating immigration resources, right? So we're going to go over immigration issues and we're going to go over the Know Your Rights. If we have time, we'll touch on the making a plan. And there's also, if we don't get to it, there's some talking points on how do you talk to other people? How do you talk to students about immigration and immigration issues? Oh, you can't access the link? Is that an issue for everyone that you can't access the link, or is that just, let me see. Okay. Okay, I can't.
Yeah, I see other people saying they can, so
Okay. I just want to make sure people have access to it. Can we maybe try it again? Like share it again? Thank you. Okay, we talked about me. We won't go through this. We did that. And a lot of this, so this is a 2-hour presentation that I do in person. So again, a lot of it, you could go back and check it out. Okay. So let's just go over some really simple key terms, right? So immigration, an international movement of people to a destination country of which they're not from, and not possess nationality in order to settle as a resident, right? Some words that we were going to use, undocumented immigrant, that's an acceptable term. Unauthorized arrival is someone who enters the country without a valid visa or required documentation. A not acceptable term in my eyes is an illegal immigrant or illegal aliens. Um, Humans can't be illegal, right? Existing can't be illegal. So we try not to use that term. We could use undocumented immigrant. And then another really happening thing right now is that temporary protected status, or that TPS. So those are those refugees that came in. A lot of them are from Venezuela, El Salvador, Ecuador, places like that. Let's go.
And Marilena, I just want to say something for a moment. I see a lot
Yeah.
of you guys raising your hands. Please put your question in the chat and then we will attend to it because she has a lot to cover right now. So we're not going to have a chance um, to take your questions immediately. Okay. Put it in the chat and then we'll address it. So I see some of you have your hands raised. And once we raise your hand, that means you come onto the screen. Okay. All right. Thank you guys. Continue.
Thank you. Okay. So again, there's lots of information. There's lots of also like facts and charts. If you want to go through it, you can. I have this chart about refugee arrivals by country of nationality. Um, this is from 2021 to 2023. Notice the top one is from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Syria, Afghanistan, Guatemala, Burma. So lots of countries are seeking refuge here in the United States, right? Top countries of origin for immigrants, industries with the highest share of immigrant workers, right? This is one of my favorite slides to share is our spending power, right? Total spending power, immigrant household income, $2.1 trillion with a spending power of $1.6 trillion, right? That's a T. That's not a B, that's not an M, it's a T, right? And we already lived the 2016 administration, so we won't go through that. We'll just jump straight into the immigration process, right? So this is a very simplicated way of how to get immigration, of how to get status here in the United States. I want to make it known that this is a very antiquated system that is ultimately broken, and 100% do we need reform on our immigration process, because there are families, there are people who have been here for 20, 30, 40 years who still don't have status. And there are people who arrive and get status pretty fast, right? And there's a very big discrepancy on how things are happening. But basically, step one, you need a green card, right? You need that lawful permanent residency. And then step two, you get citizenship. But that time in between and the process in between is very and you could get immigration status through marriage. Oh, you could go back and read the slides. Just for time's sake, we want to get through as much as we can. And you have access to all of the slides. So back to how do you get immigration? How do you get your green card, right? Marriage-based, your US citizen child over the age of 21 can petition for you. There's employment-based immigration, and then there's visas. There's so many types of visas that exist out there. From like visas for college, visas for work, travel visas, things like that, right? Some of the big ones that you might hear in the media is the WAVA, which is the violence against women. A mom or a family, a child, could receive a visa under the WAVA or the VAWA by being a victim of like a domestic violence or violence of some sort. The other one that's really big is the U visa. So if you're a victim of crime in the United States, that individual does have to cooperate with authorities, and they had to have suffered emotional or physical harm, and they could be here under a U visa. Now, previously to this administration, anyone here under a U visa is protected from deportation. And recently they actually lifted that protection. So if you're here as a victim of a crime, now those protections have been lifted, and it's starting to rain and it might get loud in here. So God help me, because the building is loud. So what about a work permit, right? A work permit does not mean that you have immigration status, right? It means you could be eligible for a work permit while your application is pending. Asylum applicants are eligible for a work permit after 6 months. A U visa recipient is eligible after 3 years. So there's a lot of inequities there, right? And I guess the question is what's the expectation of people to do while they're waiting for a work permit? And ultimately, I believe that people want to work, right? Okay, 2025 administration, right? We knew coming into this administration in January that there was going to be an emphasis on loyalty. There was going to be a return of key advisors, a strong influence on the judiciary branch, and control over the Justice Department, right? And here were like the list of the immigration priorities. So they wanted to restrict legal immigration. And we're going to just say check, right? Like they've been doing that. An increase in border security, this notion of like finishing the border wall, policies to deter asylum seekers. So they're telling individuals to remain in Mexico, right? Don't cross the border, stay in Mexico. Creating more detention facilities. So there has been these attempts in this pipeline created. So we have other detention facilities in other countries. El Salvador is one of them. They're attempting to create one in Syria. Could you hear that? The boom. Is it loud for you guys? It's loud for me. An attempt to end birthright citizenship. That was an attempt. It's being fought in the courts, and it's being put on hold, right? So birthright citizenship is anyone who's born here is automatically a citizen. And then a large goal to enforcement, right? They wanted to do the largest deportation operation in US history. We could be on our way. Expand ICE and Border Patrol powers. So they've deputized other federal agents to do ICE work. And then expedited removals. So they are trying to bypass due process and get people out of the country as soon as possible. And then created policies to reduce paths to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, and a creation of a registration process, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Okay, so let's talk about that registration because it's kind of new. So as of April 11th, the Department of Homeland Security implemented this alien registration requirement, or as we're calling it, registration. Non-citizens had 30 days to register. Failure to register could result in criminal penalties or fines. And then who needed to register? Non-citizens who entered the United States without being inspected by an immigration officer, those who have not encountered Department of Homeland Security, those who don't have work authorizations, and those who applied for TPS, that temporary protective status, but do not have their workers permit or notice to appear documents. And then also any non-citizen over the age of 14 who are in the United States. And then Canadian nationals, because why not attack the Canadians? And then just as a fact, anybody who is questioning whether they need to register or not needs to consult an immigration lawyer or a Department of Justice accredited representative, right? I can't tell you whether you should register or not. This is something that you need to make with your lawyer, with your family, because there are consequences for registering and for not registering, right? And it's really important to know there are a lot of people that are already considered registered, okay? And there's this list. So green card holders, people who've been granted parole, people who came to the US on a non-immigrant or immigrant visa, even if it's expired, you're considered registered already. People who are already in the immigration like removal process or deportation proceedings, people granted employment authorizations, refugees, those who applied for lawful permanent residency, even if it was denied, if you've applied for it, again, you're considered registered. And those who have border crossing cards or enter the US as a crewman, like on like ships and cruises and things like that. And border crossing cards, there's a lot of individuals who live near the border who have border crossing cards that they like may live in Mexico but work in the United States on a daily basis and they cross continuously. It's important that if you are considered registered to make sure that you're carrying copies of proof that prove that you're registered, right? That you're supposed to be here, or that they know that you're here, right? I would strongly recommend that you keep a copy like on your phone, keep a copy at home, keep a copy in your wallet, take screenshots, whole nine, right? Like make sure you have multiple copies in case you lose it or something happens, right? It's also really important to note that people should not be carrying false documents on them. So if you say someone is working under a false SOCH, they should keep that false SOCH at home. Don't carry any false documents. And even if you carry proof, you still have the right to remain silent and to talk to a lawyer if you're detained. Okay, so the big question is what happens if someone does not register, right? And the explanation is this, right? In the media, they've said like if you register, the odds of you getting deported is pretty high, right? If you register, you will get deported. If you don't register and you're caught, you'll get deported. So again, you should consult with a trusted immigration lawyer or a Department of Justice accredited representative for further guidance. But there are, if you get caught, you could be fined, you could do jail time. Can't tell you what to do. It's also important to note that there's no cost to register. It is free. So if someone is offering to like help you register and are charging you, it's probably fraud. So be sure to know that, right? If you need to register, you could do it on your own at the USCIS website. Obviously, if you're paying for legal consultation, that's one thing to be charged, but and make sure that the person who you're working with is an actual attorney. There's ways to look up if they're licensed or not, right? And I'll show you how to find that. And then there's lots of low cost or pro bono lawyers in your area. Use that that link that I had showed you to find an attorney near you. Okay. Okay, we're gonna skip some of this stuff because a lot of this is just lots of details that we don't have time for because I want to make sure that we get through everything. Okay. So we talked about, okay, so this is one that I want to touch on because this one really, really upsets me, if I'm being honest. But so as of March 21st, 2025, this administration suspended legal representation for migrant children. So now, as of right now, there are children, and again, this is all being fought in the courts against it. But now any child who is up for an immigrant, like an immigrant court in court to stay here, they are not given representation. They're not given an adult to help them to understand what's going on. Essentially, there have been 8 and 9-year-olds in court representing themselves to stay here in the United States, right? Because they have suspended this, the Wilberforce Act of 2008. And this is that U visa where they've lifted the protection from deportation. Again, this is being fought in the courts as well. They've revoked a bunch of TPS. So those who came here under TPS who were granted refugee status, all of that is being revoked. So, that's about 350,000 individuals, their TPS has been revoked. So,
What is CPS?
that temporary protected status, so those refugees who come in, under like seeking asylum. Yeah. Uh, about the fingerprinting, I guess that would be an area by area thing on how to get yourself fingerprinted. Um,
You froze a little bit, so you
oh, I'm
might
sorry.
want. That's okay.
It's probably the rain here. Um, Someone asked in the chat about the website having to pay for the fingerprinting. I believe that they do have to pay for the fingerprinting, but I think that cost is area by area because you'd have to go somewhere near you to get fingerprinted and have that submitted. Okay, and I just want to show an example of a letter being emailed out to individuals. It's a notice of their termination of parole. And the first line says, "It is time for you to leave the United States," right? And this is how people are being treated. Okay, so if you live in Illinois, to those who live in Illinois, the good news is you live in Illinois and there are lots of protections here for immigrants. So for instance, police and authorities are not allowed to cooperate with ICE. Not that ICE is not allowed to operate here, but the police are prohibited from cooperating with them by like holding on to someone if like someone's arrested or calling immigration on someone who's been arrested. Essentially, like local crime things are not related to any ICE things. And then when we talk about student protections, because they did lift those safety areas, right? And that was a big thing around here, that people were concerned that ICE was going to go to the schools. And there are a number of things that are in place that are protecting students, right? So we have FERPA, which is the federal law that protects students' education records and family information. So FERPA supersedes state law and is applicable to schools and post-secondary institutions. So schools and post-secondary institutions are not to share any personal information with anyone, right? We also have McKinney-Vento laws, which offer protections for students in temporary living situations. And there is Plyer versus Doe that affirms that all children, regardless of immigration status, have a constitutional right to a free and public education, right? And there's more information there if you'd like to go back and see. And then DACA, we have to talk about DACA a little bit. DACA is in the courts. It's been in the courts for a while. Yes, and in Illinois, we did pass the Safe Schools for All Act, which just strengthens that Plyer versus Doe. Thank you for that, Denise. Okay, so DACA. So DACA again is still in the courts. So those who do have DACA, if they need to, they should be renewing, right? They're encouraging people to renew their DACA, but if you don't have DACA and you wanted to apply, you do need to wait because they just don't apply if you don't have it yet. But if you have it, you should be reapplying to make sure that that is current. And then I think it's really important to make sure that we're sharing and learning from like reputable resources, right? Sources. Here's a small list. And again, I'm in Chicago, so here's who I follow to keep up with what's going on. If you have anyone that's like that you follow, you could go ahead and put it in the chat. I'd love to learn more. And then again, if you're in Illinois, you should join the Protecting Immigrant Families of Illinois email list. They send out a lot of really good information. Okay, I'm gonna pause there for 1 minute and just make sure that like I know I rushed through the immigration policies. I clearly did not go over everything. I kind of did the highlight reel. So is there anything that I could answer? So there's a question about paroled. So why are they paroled? Paroled is the term they use when people are here under that TPS. So they even give people, like some people have cell phones issued by the government, and like if they call for an appointment or something like that, they are to report immediately. It's not the best term. Again, our immigration system is broken. So it's not the best term because it does make them seem like they are criminals, right? But that is the term that they're using. Um, it's when essentially they know that they're here and they are like waiting to hear their status, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So there's another one. How do I get this information to my clients when my employer forbids it?
I mean, I have stuff posted on my personal Facebook that you could refer them to me. Or just encourage them to go online and follow. I don't know. That's really difficult, right? And I'm sorry that you're not supported and you're not allowed to do that. I would just encourage them to get on social media, maybe tell them to follow. Again, you could follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook. Um, I think that's a really tricky one. But there's lots of resources out there, right? So, maybe you're not doing something where maybe you could slip them like a Post-it note or something like that, right? I mean, I don't want to tell you to get fired from your job, but or tell them outside of your work hours if you can.
So then another question is why would anyone register or renew when ICE is nabbing people right at those offices?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, Again, and the word the word is if you register, you'll be deported. If you don't register and you're caught, you'll be deported, right? And that's I guess that's a thing too, right? People who are reporting for their court dates, people who are reporting to their TPS, their temporary protected status, like appointments, they're being picked up there. It's very unsettling, right? I mean, I clearly have some really strong opinions about that. And I have some resources on like what people should be doing to protect themselves. Um, but essentially like, there's this notion that people aren't doing the things the right way, but those people who are showing up to their court dates and reporting for their appointments are doing things the quote unquote right way, right? They're following the rules that that they were given. And so, yeah, it's a really crappy situation that's happening. And we're going to jump into like the know your rights right now. And so we're going to
Mhm.
talk about ways that people could protect themselves. And even if you follow everything to the rule, there are still people who are getting picked up, right? It's
Yeah.
definitely an unfortunate situation and
All
it's
right.
very
So
frustrating.
no, I was just gonna say, so I think you should go ahead to your know your rights, and then I know we have additional questions, so we'll get to those questions. We'll go over the know your rights, because I think that's a good lead in
Yeah,
this
for sure.
question to the know your rights, and then we'll come back to the other questions. Okay, guys?
Thank you, everyone. These are great,
Thank you.
great questions. Thank you. Okay, so we don't have to do that. And we'll just start here, right? Regardless of your immigration status, you have protections under the Constitution, right? You have the right to due process, which is the most, I think, important one that we are by-stepping here on this topic, right? So it's really, really important to know that you have the right to remain silent. And it's really important that individuals, whether they speak English fluently or not, that they learn how to say and say it out loud. I wish to remain silent. I am exercising my right to remain silent. And then after that, they don't have to say a word. Okay. You do not have to permit entry to your home or your car. It is not necessarily not necessary to open your door unless ICE or the police have a signed judicial warrant. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. It's also really, really important that people do not sign anything once they are in custody. They are essentially trying to trick people into signing an expedited deportation. So by signing anything, they're trying to get people to skip their right to court, although that's happening anyways, and going straight to a deportation facility to be sent out on the next flight. You have the right to speak and be represented by an attorney. Unfortunately, immigration is not a criminal case, right? So you do not have the right to have an attorney be provided for you. So you have to provide an attorney at your own expense, or hopefully find a pro bono attorney who could do their best with you. And then to request a phone call. It's really important that our members of our community are memorizing important phone numbers, because we know once they're detained, everything will be removed from them. So they need to remember someone's phone number. Okay, so this is an example of a fake ICE warrant. Okay, so they're using this to trick people, like, we have a warrant, look at us, right? So this does not have anywhere for a judge to sign. Okay, it says signature of ICE official. There's nowhere on this that gives a judge's signature. Okay, so this is not an actual warrant. This is something that they're using to trick individuals to open their door. This, oh wait, what happened? There we go. This is an example of a judicial warrant, okay? So notice at the top that it says United States District Court, search and seizure warrant. And at the bottom, there's a space for a judge's signature, okay? It's also really important that if someone is presenting you with a warrant, it must have your correct name. So for instance, my name is Maria-Elena Agrela. If the warrant just said Maria Agrela, I wouldn't have to open my door. It's incorrect. That's not my legal name. My legal name is Maria-Elena Agrela, right? It also has the correct address. So if you live in apartment 1B and it just says 1, it's not the correct, it's not an accurate warrant. Has to have a valid date. A lot of lawyers are saying within 6 months is a current. So if it's like from a year ago or 2 years ago, it's no longer valid. And again, that judge's signature is probably the most important thing, right? So make sure that it's signed by a judge, make sure it has a recent, we just talked about this. Okay, so when you're at home, so you do not have to open the door. And again, it's really important to teach small kids not to open the door when someone knocks. I know a lot of people have been like putting like a little like lock at the top where the little ones can't reach. You know, just to make sure that they're not opening the door out of excitement, thinking it's like Amazon or something, right? You are not required to open the door unless ICE has a signed warrant. So you want to ask for them to show you the warrant either under the door or through a window. Remember, the second you open your door, you've lost your rights, right? So the second you open your door, you've now allowed them entry. So if they enter, tell them to show you if they ask to enter, you want to see the warrant through the door or under the door. If they force their way in, it's really important not to resist for your safety, but tell everyone to remain silent. Again, I am exercising my right to remain silent. I wish to remain silent. If you are arrested, remain silent and do not sign anything until you speak to a lawyer. Right? Now at work, this is a really tricky one, right? So ICE must have a signed warrant by the judge or permission from your employer to enter a private area of your workspace, okay? So there's private areas where like the public can't just walk in, and then there's public areas where like anybody could walk in, okay? For instance, restaurants, right? A lot of restaurants are public areas because you could just walk in. My favorite restaurant has actually moved to locking their door and only allowing entry. You know, if you have an order, or if they're kind of like letting people in as they need to kind of eliminate that public area. ICE can enter public areas of your workspace without permission. Being in a public area does not give ICE authority to stop, question, or arrest just anyone. You do not have to answer questions, and you do have the right to remain silent. Again, this is really important that people don't carry any false documents on their person, right? Again, public space. ICE does not need a warrant to search public spaces. If ICE stops you on the street, you are not required to show identification or answer questions. You simply ask, am I free to go? and you can walk away calmly. If ICE says no, you have the right to remain silent. Okay, so this is a little specific to Illinois. But essentially, because I know that if you live within close boundaries of the border, the police can ask you if you're a citizen or not, right? But again, if ICE stops you while driving, they can require you to show a driver's license or registration, proof of insurance. Here in Illinois, TVDLs, those temporary visitor driver's license, can look like a regular driver's license now. You could have that converted. So they should be looking like a standard driver's license. I don't know if that's everywhere, but I know that's here specific in Illinois. And again, here in Illinois, police cannot ask you about your immigration status. I know that is not everywhere. Like for instance, my mom and dad live in Brownsville, Texas, right? Brownsville, Texas, our house is less than a mile from the border. And so you definitely could be asked about your legal status down there, because you're within 100 miles of the border. Okay. So you might want to check your local resources. I do have all these in Spanish. I'll show you where to find it. Okay. Okay. If you are detained by ICE, while you do have the right to completely remain silent, for the sake of your family, we recommend that you give your name and date of birth. And that's just so your family could find you, okay? It's important also for those who have an alien registration number, that A number, that they memorize it, because that's another way that you could be found. All detention centers let you make a call. There will be a charge. Only inform your lawyer about your immigration status. Always ask to see a judge and don't sign anything. Here in Illinois, there are no detention centers in Illinois. So the closest one to us is like Kentucky, Indiana, Wisconsin. There is a site to locate your family members if they are detained, right? If your family is from Mexico, you can call your Mexican consulate for support. And if you do get to go before a judge and they give you a bond, 100% of the bond must be paid, right? And I know the average here in Illinois, those bonds are between $8,000 and $12,000, and you do have to pay all of that up front. And it should be paid by someone who has legal status. And that's a lot of money, by the way. Here in Illinois, if you have a family member who is detained, you can call the ICER Family Support Hotline. And there's a number that I will show you in a moment of where to get support nationwide. Okay. I should have added that here, but I did not. I'm sorry. We will skip a lot of this because a lot of this is in Illinois. Filming and law enforcement encounters. So here in Illinois, you have the right to record public interactions with police and ICE. I will say this, it is important to be safe. It's important that you don't get yourself arrested in the process, right? So you want to assess the risk of filming encounters. If it's okay to film, you should. Try not to obstruct the police officer or ICE agent. Film from a safe distance. Make sure if you are filming that you're narrating the recording with specific times, dates, locations, and descriptions of what's happening. It's important to obey commands and ICE from police or ICE to move back and give them space. And if ICE or police order you to stop filming, if it makes sense to do so to protect yourself for your personal safety, you should. But you are a grown-up and you can make that decision what's best for you, right? The locator is updated every 12 hours, but I have known it to be like to be like 3 to 5 days. So that like there have been examples of family members like missing for almost a week, and then they figure out that they were detained. So while the locator is updated every 12 hours, it could take quite a while for information to get logged in. And I will show you where to find the Know Your Rights signs, but it's important that families aren't posting them outside their doors. I hate to say that I have to say that, but we should. This is a reminder of what to do if ICE knocks on the door, so maybe put it inside the door or on the refrigerator. And these are examples of those signs, right? And I have these in English and Spanish. And then there are other links to other languages if you need those, okay? I like this one. This one is from the Resurrection Project here in Illinois, but I like them because it shows you examples of what a warrant is and what a warrant isn't, right? That judge's signature is really, really important. And on all of them, regardless of the language, on the right, the left is like to show the agents, right? So I know and have the right to exercise my rights. So that's what you're showing. So that side is always going to be in English, and then the one on the right is going to be in another language. Okay. And I also have links to these, right? So these are cards that you could give individuals to keep in your wallet. And remember, it says right here, tiene el derecho a decir, I wish to remain silent. We really need to teach our neighbors how to say that. I wish to remain silent, right? And then again, the one side is always in one language, and then the other side is in English, because our friends are, not our friends. ICE agents probably don't speak other languages, right? Another example, these are the ones that I use. I kind of combined a few that I liked. I kind of made my own. And then legal resources, lots of information. If you need to check on your immigration status, here is the number, here is how to do so. This is nationwide. And then one thing I do want to talk about is fraud, right? This is like key times to take advantage of people's, vulnerability, right? So if something sounds too good to be true, get a second opinion, right? If a lawyer is guaranteeing status by the end of whatever time or after they pay X amount of money, it is a scam. Immigration lawyers cannot promise any type of outcome, right? It's important to check credentials, get everything in writing. Here in the United States, notaries cannot give legal advice. They could only verify someone's identity and verify that signature. But in Mexico, notarios are also lawyers, right? So sometimes that could be deceiving, and notaries have been known to take advantage. So here in the United States, notaries, notarios cannot give legal advice. They could only verify someone's identity. And also immigration will only reach out via regular mail. They're not going to do unsolicited calls. They're not going to do unsolicited texts. They're not going to, contact you via WhatsApp. Although I will say this, the Consulate of Mexico does use WhatsApp, but they're only going to reach out to you if you initiate conversation, right? If you initiate a question or they're helping you with something, right? And again, beware of false promises. No one could guarantee you any type of outcome. If you are a victim of any fraud, you should contact your local, like your state's attorney general. They have resources. Our attorney general here in Illinois has a plethora of resources. And so just really quick, do learn your rights. It's really important. Don't carry fraudulent documents. Do carry copies of any approval documents regarding your immigration status. Don't panic. Do create a plan. Talk about guardianship, and we're going to go over this slightly. Do talk about guardianship for your children and power of attorney for your assets, because your money is your money no matter where you are, right? My money, however much money I have in the bank is my money, whether I'm here in Illinois, in Texas, in Mexico, in Europe, whatever, right? Your money is your money. Don't isolate yourself. Do encourage your community, your neighbors and those who are undocumented to find community and support. And don't sign anything, right? Again, don't sign anything. Once you're detained, do not sign anything. Ask for a lawyer. Don't lie. Don't run. Okay. I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna exit here, and I'm gonna show you where all the resources are really quick. We're just gonna go through this. Let me go into preview. And Lori, if we could share this again, that would be great.
Maria-Elena, I almost feel like we should have done a part two. We should have done a part one and a part two.
I know,
for
it's a
this.
lot. It really is. It's a lot. Okay, so here we have the know your rights. Okay, If you click on them, you could print them from here. Okay, so I'll just show you really quick. So if you click on it, it goes to a page where you could print. Okay. I showed you the red ones that I use. And locally I get 500 cards, like Know Your Right cards for about $90. It's a pretty good deal. I'm pretty sure they're giving me a nice little discount. Okay. All of the Know Your Rights, door hangers, you click on it, you could print it. If you don't like this one, there are other options, okay? There are options from other organizations. Here's one from the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. Here is one from, I don't even know what organization that is, that's so small. And all of everything is in English and Spanish, okay? Then I have another really important thing that our families do is to create a plan. Okay, if you click on this one's in English, I have one in Spanish. So if you click on this, it kind of walks you through what you need to know, what kind of things you need to have in order for your emergency plan. We're encouraging our families to kind of create a binder and then have someone who's trusted, and who will be responsible for things if something happens to you, know where it is and have everything in one spot, right? So whether you have kids or not, like this is something you should have, right? Write down, like this really talks about kids, but there's other things that you should have in there. Copies of driver's license, copies of your I-10, copies of your birth certificates, marriage certificates, legal custody documents, anything, right? And then there's like a list, documents to carry versus documents to never carry, right? Write all of this down, put it in a binder, put it somewhere safe. If you have children, I would highly recommend you talk to someone. Here in Illinois, there's a document called a short-term guardianship. It allows you to give guardianship of your children short-term, up to 365 days. You could also extend it. You do not need a lawyer. You do not need a notary to have that in place. Okay, if you don't live in Illinois, I'm sorry, you should consult a lawyer or consult someone, like a DOJ accredited individual for guidance on that. Like, what are your options for what happens to your children if they're under 18, if you are detained and deported, right? If you are in Illinois, um, I have a lot of resources on that short-term guardianship. Watch the video that's here. It goes through everything, right? It's pretty comprehensive. Okay, what to do? Know before you go immigration hearing. If you have an immigration hearing, right? Here is some guidance on what to do before if you have an immigration court, right? What you need to know. ICE is arresting people at or near immigration courts. So make sure that you know your rights, make sure you have all your documents, make sure you have a plan, right? Okay, we want to get through this quickly, right? The resources galore, right? We have Chicagoland resources. The Resurrection Project is pretty comprehensive. So is the ICER website. I have statewide for Illinois, the National Immigration Detention Hotline. If someone is in detention, they could dial 9233 and it'll take them to a hotline number that will give them resources while they are in detention. That is my notice to hurry up. There are Know Your Rights cards here as well. Know Your Rights cards with ICE. So all of these will send you to resources, right? So if you click on it, it's going to give you red cards, right? And they have them in all of these languages. So if Spanish is not what you need other languages, it is here. Okay, everything is linked into this website. We have this nationwide directory. We went over this earlier. You could click on here, put in your zip code and find what resources are around you. I do have some information by states, not a lot. And then if you are an individual from Mexico, the Mexican consulate does have an app. I contacted them to make sure it was legitimate because I was nervous when it first came out. It is legitimate. You could, essentially it has an emergency feature that if you do get detained, you could put in like emergency contacts and let them know what's going on. And it'll also give you like like where you are. Yes, there are a number of law students who are working with individuals. So that is true. I don't know. That is true. And you have the number. Thank you. Again, we talked about a little bit about that mental health stuff, right? So, just for some context, children as young as 3 years old have been like anxious and nervous about leaving home to go to school, right? So we've seen an increase in truancy, an increase in attendance or lack of attendance, absences, right? It's really important that we are not isolating ourselves. Here in Illinois, local food pantries does not count towards any public charge, right? So families should not be going hungry. Schools should be a safe refuge. And there should be some mental health resources available, right? I know here in Illinois where we are, we have a lot of resources and a lot of support. But maybe where you are, there's not so much. So there's information online. You could be a safe space. It's important that our families are talking to one another about what's going on, especially if mom and dad are worried about being detained and deported. Have a conversation. Typically kids don't find out if they're undocumented or if their families are undocumented until they're about 16 because they're not told for their safety, right? And then they want to get a driver's license or get a job. And then they get this like bomb put on them that like they can't do those things. And so that's the norm. That's been the norm. But with everything that's going on, we are encouraging our families to have conversations like what happens if, like, what's the emergency plan, right? Have those conversations. There's a lot of guidance for parents who are undocumented from the Center of Childhood Resilience. So just kind of peruse that. Lots and lots of resources. You could always dial 988 if you're having a mental health crisis. And I'm going to stop there, but at the and yes, and this is all online. So every Thursday, this organization, the Resurrection Project, has a Know Your Rights training online. So anyone could access that, right? 2 p.m. in English, 6 p.m. in Spanish every Thursday. And then just quickly, all of my information is there. That's my email, that's my phone number. If you have any questions, I'm gonna stop here just because we are out of time. But thank you for having me. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that even if you're not in Illinois, I was able to give you good information.
Maria-Elena, this was fantastic. I really do. I'm sitting here like, dang, we should have done this in 2 parts. This was a lot of information. This is fantastic information. I just want to say thank you from the bottom and top of my heart for pulling together all these great resources and then sharing them with our Be Strong family. And I just want to encourage people to um I was thinking, like, how do you keep your hope and how you stay positive when all these things are happening, right? So I just want to encourage people to talk to someone. Don't hold it in. Talk to someone. Feeling prepared helps to reduce anxiety. So do all the great stuff. She gave us some great resources. Use those things to help you stay positive or to stay hopeful during situations like this. This is a lot, and this was great information. So thank you, Maria-Elena. Uh, Be Strong Families always has Taste of Cafes. Come by and visit us at a Taste of Cafe. Jump in, learn how you can keep yourself holistically healthy and your family safe and your family strong and your children safe at a Taste of Cafe. Be prepared to participate. Next slide, Lori.
Oh,
You
I'm sorry.
know,
Here, let me stop sharing. Sorry, my fault.
that's okay.
And
So
can I
you
also
guys have
say,
a lot.
I'll stay on,
Mhm.
Sarita, real quick. I'll stay on and
Uh-huh.
answer questions that are in the chat.
Okay.
So if you asked a question in the Q&A, I'll be sure to answer those. I'm gonna work on
Thank
that right
you for
now.
that.
Mhm.
Thank you for that. So she'll
Yeah.
hang around for a little bit, guys. Also, all this is sort of stressful, right? You may need a cafe. If you're in the cafe community of practice, if you have not been trained to do parent cafes, you should get trained to do parent cafes so that you can help your parents and support those parents in conversations just like this, where they can, practice taking care of themselves in stressful situations. You can find decks on, Vitality decks in our Be Strong Family shop. Just visit the website using the QR code. That's what, hey, Wanda Wesley. Next. And if you benefit or you value what Be Strong Families does with these webinars, please consider being a blessing. Do a donation. Use the QR code. Donate. We love doing these. We don't have a budget for this or our parent engagement stuff. So if you love these webinars and all the great information we've been bringing for the last 4 years, consider making a donation to Be Strong Families. We greatly, greatly appreciate them. Is that it, Lori? Again, this can be found. A lot of links were shared. This was live streaming to YouTube. So if you visit our YouTube channel, then you can you can share today's presentation with the parents that you serve. Is that it, Lori?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to
All right.
stop
Well, thank you
recording.
guys. Yep. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. If those of you guys want to stay around to get your questions answered, Maria-Elena has graciously agreed to hang out with us for a little bit longer. And thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you. Yay! You guys shared some really great info today too. Oh my gosh. I couldn't write quick enough.